Sutra of Choice, Law of Signs. The unconscious will stop us from making wrong decisions and actions by any means necessary. Developing intuition, listening to inner signals, and paying attention to signs. Remember the feeling of drive and flow when everything falls into place, doors open before you, you manage to be everywhere on time, there's a green wave on your path, tasks progress smoothly, the right people appear just when needed, and good events happen by chance. Often, we think this is just luck, but isn't this luck the result of our sensitivity to the signs of the universe, guiding us on the right path? Throughout history, those striving for greatness and glory have heeded the signs of fate. Signs have determined the destinies of many generations and entire civilizations, such as the Roman Empire. When Constantine, the son of Constantius Chlorus, ascended the throne after defeating all possible rivals, the empire was already established across vast territories, from the heathlands of Scotland in the west to the banks of the Euphrates in the east, from the banks of the Rhine and Danube in the north to the Nile's cataracts and the sands of Arabia in the south. Managing this enormous empire from Rome was becoming increasingly difficult. Emperors remained where the situation was most threatening or from where they could best control all provinces. There was no single center that could become the new capital. Mediolanum, modern-day Milan, was too far from the wealthy eastern territories, and Nicomedia was distasteful to Constantine due to the memory of Diocletian. Then, Constantine had a dream. Though the emperor did not condescend to reveal how this divine inspiration was communicated to his mind, noted the English historian Edward Gibbon in his famous work, the void left by his modest silence was generously filled by the inventive writers of later ages, who described the vision that appeared in Constantine's imagination while he slept outside the walls of Byzantium. The deity who protected this city, a venerable matron goddess bowed under the weight of years and infirmities, suddenly became a maiden in the bloom of youth, and the emperor himself placed all the symbols of imperial power on her. The monarch awoke, understood the meaning of this favorable omen, and, without hesitation, obeyed the will of heaven. The sign sent by the unconscious to Constantine in a dream helped him make a decision that led to the founding of the second, or new, Rome Constantinople. This city became the capital of the Roman Empire and, within less than a century, turned into the center of the emerging Byzantine civilization. From the perspective of information systems theory, the emperor's action appears fully justified. In the absence of sufficient information, when a choice must be made, the possibility of error cannot be overlooked. An error is always a loss of money, time, or other resources. Therefore, the primary task is to find methods that guarantee the right choice. To achieve this, it is necessary to obtain complete information about all possible options. This significantly complicates life because we rarely have the opportunity to choose from just 2 or 3 possibilities. Even a simple question like "Should I go to the movies today or not?" reveals, upon detailed analysis, more than a dozen different scenarios, both positive and negative. A wise man listens to premonitions, for they are sent by a benevolent higher power. Boris Akunin, Planet of Water. Systems with a large or infinite number of degrees of freedom are the subject of statistical mechanics. The number of degrees of freedom in a system directly determines the number of states in which it can exist. For a macroscopic open system like our universe, the number of degrees of freedom is enormous. This is why predictions in statistical physics are probabilistic. Similarly, the success of our actions should be evaluated based on the probability that some important factor was overlooked. We cannot have all the information about the world around us. This is where our unconscious comes to the rescue. Very often, the conclusions we reach through rational calculation differ from what our unconscious tells us. It's important to remember that the unconscious uses its method of analyzing reality because it can see facts and patterns that the conscious mind does not notice. Therefore, the unconscious often whispers the correct answer to us, we just need to listen. This is sometimes called intuition. Those who have learned to trust it can make the right decisions even when there is a clear lack of information. If our unconscious believes we are making a clear mistake, it will try to draw our attention to this by sending us signals and signs. The less we pay attention to them, the more persistent they become. For example, before an important meeting, we might first forget our car keys, then have to return for documents, then miss the right turn. Ultimately, we are hopelessly late. Perhaps our unconscious was trying to warn us that this meeting would not be beneficial or that we are not yet ready for it. Through the loss or damage of necessary items, the unconscious tries to convey important information to us. Sometimes, this can even manifest as illness, preventing us from making a wrong move. A sign will not tell you anything until you understand how to interpret it. Arthur Golden, Memoirs of a Geisha. Therefore, when making important decisions, in addition to objective reasons, it's crucial to listen to the signals from our unconscious. This is how it tries to protect us from fatal mistakes. Academician P.V. Semenoff distinguished between two spheres of unconscious activity, the subconscious and the superconscious. The term subconscious is used by researchers as a synonym for unconscious, a term preferred by the famous Austrian psychologist and philosopher of the early 20th century, the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, primarily for copyright reasons regarding psychoanalytic theory. In essence, subconscious and unconscious are equivalent. Stored in our subconscious is information that requires no explanation, it is perceived as self-evident and lies there until needed. These are instincts, reflexes, and well-learned automated skills. At the depths of the subconscious lies our intuition, the ability to unconsciously draw on past personal experience. For example, when seeing a patient, an experienced doctor may often deduce the nature of their condition and diagnose them even before obtaining test results. The superconscious is responsible for the unconscious creative activity of the brain, generating hypotheses, guesses, creative insights, solving fundamentally new problems, and producing knowledge that did not previously exist in the brain. The superconscious draws material for its activity from both conscious experience and the reserves of the subconscious. In such cases, people say, "It was like a revelation, I suddenly understood what I had been struggling to figure out for so long." Through analysis of the unconscious, specialists can uncover conflicts lying in this sphere, allowing them to free a person from psychological problems, complexes, and unsuccessful scenarios, thereby changing their destiny. For the unconscious sphere of human activity to work and for the brain to function fully, it must be constantly loaded with new information. According to renowned neurophysiologist José Delgado, the reactions of each individual are determined by the conditions of the surrounding environment, acting on the brain's neurophysiological mechanisms through sensory information inflow, and manifested as corresponding motor activity behavior. Moreover, brain activity depends on sensory inflow from the external environment not only immediately after birth but throughout life. In its absence, normal mental functions are disrupted. By operating with implicit information at the level of our consciousness and subconsciousness, and by studying the characteristics of the external environment, the brain forms the most appropriate and adequate behavior program for the situation that arises. The brain can then become more receptive to any stimuli from the environment that contributed to the formation of a particular behavior program. These stimuli can later become guiding signs on a person's path, forming the basis for enhancing their intuition. Mistakes can be made in many ways, but correct behavior can only be achieved in one way. This is why the former is easy, while the latter is difficult. It is easy to miss, but hard to hit the target. Aristotle. The impact of such stimuli causes the emergence of orienting responses and alertness. These reactions have a low level of conscious control because they arose in the early stages of the evolution of living organisms. They are necessary to enhance adaptive responses and the survival of individuals. Under strong motivation, which is proportional to the strength of the need and the level of anxiety, even a stimulus with only a distant resemblance to the optimal situation may acquire signal significance. An example from animal behavior is the avoidance response to the silhouette of a predator. In a calm state, birds do not react to various geometric shapes presented to them. However, if the presented figure corresponds to the silhouette of a hawk soaring in the sky, the birds begin to scream and attempt to hide, displaying an avoidance reaction. And even if the danger is imaginary, the avoidance reaction is triggered. Such attention to signs is controlled by the unconscious. It is in the unconscious that pre-programmed actions and decisions are stored, and it is the unconscious that sends signals to prevent the conscious mind from taking the wrong actions and making wrong decisions. To decode a message means to penetrate its symbolic form. Ernst Gombrich. A good person sees good signs. Often, these signs manifest as our inadvertent mistakes, slips of the tongue, writing errors, forgetfulness, or losing things. Freud, after analyzing the causes of such mistakes, found that they are the result of the subconscious mind. Through such mistaken actions, the subconscious seems to nudge the conscious mind in the desired direction. This sphere, where conscious control is supplemented or sometimes partially replaced by the influence of the subconscious, was called parapraxis by Freud, meaning something beyond ordinary consciousness practice. According to Freud, the sphere of parapraxis included 1. Slips of the tongue, writing mistakes, errors in listening and reading. 2. Forgetting words, names, impressions. 3. Losing things, including situations where things are hidden so well that even the person who hid them can't find them. 4. Actions done by mistake. A classic example is the case of the wrong address, also described by Freud. A person subconsciously does not want to write a letter to someone, but their conscience, the censor, forces them to do what is right, and the person complies. The letter is written. However, when control is relaxed during the writing of the address on the envelope, they make a seemingly minor mistake when writing a part of it, but one that directs the letter elsewhere. Thus, the subconscious prevents the conscious mind from taking undesirable, mistaken actions. Surely we've all experienced moments of déjà vu or a strong feeling that something important is about to happen. This is also a message from our subconscious, signaling that this moment holds the answer to a certain question and points in the right direction, preventing mistaken actions. Specialists advise listening and paying attention to the signs we receive from our subconscious, especially when a decision is not simple or obvious. Many truths discovered by modern science have been intuitively known to people for centuries. The collective unconscious holds sacred knowledge and forms barriers that prevent most people from accessing this information, as they are not ready to receive and properly use it. Signs and symbols, which serve as keys to hidden knowledge, have always been in the hands of wise men and spiritual teachers. The adherents of the ancient Jewish mystical tradition Kabbalah interpreted the world created by God as a coded mystical text, created using 22 letters, signs, of the Hebrew alphabet, which only a sage could read. The ancient Kabbalistic treatise Sefer Yetzirah teaches the understanding of the world as a text. He created reality from chaos and made his absence his presence, and carved great pillars from the boundless air, and here is the sign: he observes and moves, creating all that is created and all the words of one name, and the sign of this word is 22 in one body. Subconscious thoughts are referred to in the Tanakh, Holy Scriptures, as thoughts in the heart or speech in the heart, because the heart is a hidden organ, from which, on the other hand, all life and activity of a person depend. The Torah also mentions thoughts that a person is not aware of. For example, in the weekly portion of Vayera, when the angels told Abraham that Sarah would have a child within a year, Sarah laughed inwardly, Bereshit 18:12. The Almighty did not ignore this and said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child, now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord?'" And when Abraham asked Sarah why she laughed, she denied it, "I did not laugh," because she did not realize the thought that had flashed through her mind. To this, Abraham responded, "No, you did laugh," meaning he knew this prophetically. Belief in omens saps people of spiritual energy. It instills in our Romans from street sweepers to consuls a vague sense of confidence where there should be none, and at the same time an obsessive fear that does not inspire actions or awaken ingenuity, but paralyzes the will. Thornton Wilder, The Ides of March. The words of a passing musician about tightening the string became a true sign for Siddhartha Gautama Buddha. If you tighten the string too much, it will break; if you loosen it too much, it will not play, the Prince Siddhartha heard. Understanding the meaning of this sign, Buddha discovered the middle path, which became one of the pillars of Buddhism. According to Muslim sages, when a person submits and surrenders to the will of Allah, he becomes a Muslim. Then the Almighty guides him on the right path. To keep a person from getting lost, the Creator sent Muslims the law Sharia, which shields believers from sinful and forbidden actions. Moreover, Allah endowed believers with taqwa, an intuition that helps to distinguish between good and evil, permissible and forbidden. In the heart of every person are signaling indicators of taqwa, which reveal to a person the true nature of his deeds. A Muslim who commits sinful and forbidden acts feels anxiety and guilt, which signal the prohibition of what is being done. Anxiety and shame are signs that we are acting wrongly. Conversely, a Muslim who performs good and permissible deeds is immersed in joyful silence and inner peace, indicating the Creator's satisfaction with what he is doing. Surely the righteous will be in bliss. These signals are given by the Muslim's conscience and serve as a kind of indicator on his path if the believer commits an act that leads him away from the straight path set by Allah. The stronger a person's faith, iman, and the purer the heart, the sharper his intuition is tuned, the better he receives the signals sent to him, and the more accurately he responds to them. Quran 3:92. Signs, signs. True signs. This is what we are completely incapable of perceiving. It would seem that everything is clearer than clear, and the heart knows, a sign has been given, but no. It does not believe, does not want to agree, resists. Why are we so thick-skinned? Hey. Yevgeny Klyoev, The Book of Shadows. The Christian perspective on the problem of choice was formulated by the Apostle Paul in one of his texts. He spoke of those who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil, Hebrews 5:14. These are people who, through spiritual work on themselves, have so cultivated their inner skills that they prevent them from making mistakes and sins. In ancient Greek sin hamartia, literally meaning missing the mark, not hitting the target, recognizing them by signs. In other words, the unconscious skills, can be trained, particularly through habits. From habit comes skill, and skill turns into nature, but turning and changing nature is difficult, says Saint Nilus of Sinai. One can train one's nature in either direction. If the heart is brought to purity, it is clear that all the senses are also purified. It is said, "The kingdom of God is within you," Luke 17:21, and "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God," Matthew 5:8, thus postulating the possibility of establishing contact through one's heart and one's unconscious with the Creator Himself, who, wishing us only good, 1 John 4:21, will warn us of dangers and lead us to happiness. For what else is there to seek for one in whom God is present? Or what will suffice for one to whom God is insufficient? We wish to see God, we strive to see God, we burn with the desire to see God. Who does not? But notice what is said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Prepare that with which you will see Him. Man is the beloved child of the universe. Man and the universe look into each other, listen, converse, and exchange signs. A loving mother endowed her children with the ability to feel and think, to contemplate visible and invisible worlds. Consciously and unconsciously, man is connected to her by countless threads, sensing her pulse and breath. "There is kinship between us," wrote Arseny Tarkovsky. Which reminds people of the significance of the signs of the universe and their destiny. The alchemist teaches the reader to listen to the culture signs that life presents, while nothing happens in the world for no reason. Both wisdom is the collective unconscious, which carefully preserves observations, signs, and omens sent to people to ensure they do not lose their way, to warn them of danger, or, on the contrary, of happy changes. There are countless examples of this. Here are some of them. Ants in the house, a sign of happiness. A hare running through the village, an omen of fire. Whoever accidentally notices a light in their house can expect happiness.